Your brain is like a computer in many ways, and if you can learn to program it, you can become the master of your own destiny. That's really what we want to do. We want to become the masters of our own destiny here. And one thing that I learned about when working at Pavlok, especially looking at behavior change on the whole, is that there's something called Keystone Habits. Welcome back to another episode of The New Wave Entrepreneur. It's me, Daniel DiPiazza, checking in with you here from my still kind of honestly bare office in Oregon. I need to get a bookcase. All of my books are in this closet, and I haven't yet gotten a bookcase to showcase them all. So I'm having to constantly dig through my closet to look for books. Today we're going to be reviewing a book, one of my favorites, or just talking about it, so I had to dig for it. But I need to get a bookcase. I'm so fucking cheap. I'll spend on some things, on other things I'll say, I'm not spending the money, but I need a bookcase at this point. But either way, happy that you're here in my office today in New Wave headquarters. Today we are talking about habits, we're talking about routines, and how these things have an outsized impact on our lives. But first, before I go into that, I want to give some housekeeping notes, because I did write some notes. So the first is, welcome back. This is our first episode in February of 2022. I took about a week off. I went to Miami with my wife. We spent some time in the sun. It's been, if you've ever been to the Pacific Northwest, it's just very cloudy up here and rainy, and I like it a lot, but also it's just like, it's nice to get out there. And I'm from Florida originally, so I need those rays. My melanin needs the attention. I need the sunshine, man. So thank you for your patience on producing new episodes. I want to recap too that recently, over the past 2 months, well, really in December and January, we've had two very successful, well-attended workshops that I'm very proud of everyone who showed up. So we had the New Wave workshop in December, which was all about crypto, Web3, and DeFi and everything in between. And that was really such a great showing of brilliant minds coming together to talk about this new and important tech. And so thank you to all the members who came out, and the members of the community who came out and really showed out in that workshop. And of course, we're all now in the Discord community together. And also in January, we had the Money Moves workshop, which was focused on personal finance, understanding investing, cash flow, tax strategies, all these different things for entrepreneurs and professionals. And that was extremely well received as well, not only from our audience members, but also our special guests that we have. When every one of these workshops that I do, I try to do my best to bring amazing guests. I'm pretty good at all this stuff, but I want to bring people who are better than me. And one of my things is that I know people who are really smart, so I bring them in to come to talk to you. So that's how we do these workshops. But I wanted to just give a shout out to everyone who has attended one of those workshops recently. We have a new one coming up. I'm going to tell you about it right now before we jump into today's show, because I have a lot to cover over the show, and I have all these notes on things I want to go over with, habits, how to build them, what my routine looks like, and all that stuff. But before we do that, I want to talk about specifically peak performance. And really, it kind of blends into what we're talking about today, because I did a poll earlier. Well, when I was in Miami, I did a poll and I said, what do you guys want to hear about next on, for my next workshop? And you might have taken part of that poll. So if you did, thank you. And I gave 3 options. And the number one vote that I received was peak performance for busy people. So I kind of took the week off and I thought, okay, well, what would a performance like that, or what would a workshop like that look like? What would that include? What would it entail? And this is essentially what I came up with. And so this is what the workshop is called. It's literally called Peak Performance for Busy People. This is another one of our monthly workshops, and you can see now I'm doing them basically every month. We hit one in January, and we'll miss the February window because it's a short month, but this is the first week in March. So Peak Performance for Busy People. This is March 3rd and 4th, which is a Thursday and a Friday. So it's coming up here in about a month, a little bit less. And here are the main focuses of this workshop. Here are the promises. 1, it's to get you sharp. Mastering your focus, your discipline, and your attention to detail that gets you paid and promoted. So whether you're working for yourself or working for someone else, mastering your focus and discipline and attention to detail are highly important. It's going to get you fast. We're going to learn time management strategies for getting more done at work and beating the competition off the race blocks. That's the next step. We're going to talk about building positive habits, for instance, meditation, financial habits, healthy habits and fitness, relationship habits. What habits are you looking to build? We'll help you to build those at this workshop. We're also going to talk about destroying negative habits, things that are maybe stressing you out, procrastination, self-doubt, lack of focus and discipline. We're going to talk about destroying those habits and give you some strategies. We're going to talk about mental health and dealing with the stress of high performance, which I think is so important and underlooked quite often. And we're going to talk about rising to the top of your field, how to get there in half the time, wherever you're going, how to cut that time in half. And this is going to be a 2-day live event. You don't have to attend live. It's going to be recorded if you can't make it, but it's going to be me plus special guests. And we're going to be giving away some crypto prizes during the workshop just for fun. And here's the thing, there's only 100 tickets. And for all these workshops I'm doing every month, when I sell these workshops out, I'm selling them only at 100 tickets at a time because I'm purposely wanting to build a community with this. I care less about getting the maximum number of attendees in a Zoom. I care more about getting the engagement, getting people to talk about the concepts that are important here that we're bringing up, getting one-on-one interaction with the guests that I bring in. So, I care about keeping that number solid. So it's 100 tickets. And I'm going to open up an early bird window. And you see I do this during our promotions for these workshops. I open up an early bird every month, and you should get in that because these workshops are selling out every single time. And so the tickets for the event are $297, but early bird VIPs get $100 off the ticket. And here's what we're doing for early birds this time. We're doing a buddy pass. So if you get an early bird ticket, you get $100 off, plus you get an extra ticket totally free to bring a member of your friend group, a member of your family group, someone who is dedicated to improving their lives, improving their business, their habits as well, their routines as well. Bring them to this for free. And that's bomb. I mean, if you think about it, that 2 tickets would be $600, and so you're going to get both for less than $200. If you split it, that's like less than $100 per person. So that's an amazing deal for the weekend. Like I said, it's really what I think we're going for here is the community that we're building around these workshops. So I know you want to be a part of that. Anyway, that was my whole idea, and that was really based on what you guys asked for in the poll that I did. So that was my response to your response. Now let's talk about habits. Let's get into the show. Let's talk about what this part of peak performance looks like in your life. Well, first, let's define habit. Well, let me back it up because I pulled a quote from James Allen, and he said it better than I ever could. James Allen said, "Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass." Now, what does that mean to you? To me, it means that, well, the mind is the projector screen onto which we are projecting our reality, and it's the thing that's creating its own perceptions. And when we think of something, we create that thing just through our thoughts. And we can shrink the distance between the physical reality of something and the thought form of something just by increasing the intensity of which we think about something. And that might sound strange, but I believe that this is essentially the code behind, you could call it, if you wanted to get a little woo-woo, you could call it manifestation, you could call it intention. But really, it's just the collective effort of behavior over time, because you can intend for something to happen, but if you don't behave in a way in which you want it to happen, it won't. And that's really where habits come into play. Habits are, well, in my opinion, they're just behaviors that you repeatedly do. And you do these habits so often that they create a pattern in your life, and they eventually become subconscious. And Merriam-Webster says that the habit is an acquired mode of behavior that's become nearly or completely involuntary. So habits are things that are so natural to us that they go unseen. Oh, by the way, I should mention, as we're talking about habits, I was talking about building good habits and breaking bad ones earlier for the workshop, this peak performance workshop in March, March 3rd and 4th. if you want to get on the early bird list for that, go to newwaveentrepreneur.com/VIP. That's how you get on the VIP list. I left you hanging on the call to action. That's fine. Now back to the program. Now, habits. Habits create your behavior patterns. Okay, if you think about it, when you're doing something over and over again, that thing you're doing becomes a behavior, which a behavior is a more long-term expression of an action. It's something that you're doing over time. And habits create your behavior patterns. Behavior patterns create your personality, because your personality then becomes part of your identity. You know, if you are someone who bites their nails, and nail biting becomes a habit that becomes a long-term behavior, then eventually you start to see yourself as someone who's a nail biter, because that creates your personality, right? And your personality, to a certain extent, creates a life trajectory for you. Now, obviously, if you're a nail biter, it doesn't mean that you're going to have a horrible life trajectory because you're a nail biter, but there are in many ways in which your repeated habits become your behaviors become your personality, and your personality becomes who you are. You know, it's kind of like they say that the difference of 1 degree from the port of a ship, or a ship taking a difference of 1 degree from the port, can be the difference between landing up in Tokyo or New Zealand. And so, you know, there's a huge difference in the cumulative effect of habits over time. They create a compounding effect, and behaviors stack on each other, habits stack on each other, and over time it creates a calcification where it's actually very hard to sometimes undo bad habits that we've created. Now, the thing is, although habits, they can be scary because they go kind of under the radar. They can create some control over our destiny. That's a good thing, because habits can be good or bad, and breaking bad habits and building good ones both are equally important skill sets, and both can be done. And I know this for a fact. In fact, I used to work at a company called Pavlok, and I have even a tattoo for it here. It's a lightning bolt. And Pavlok is a behavior change company that uses a wearable piece of technology to essentially help you to break bad habits and to establish new ones with a mild electric stimulus. It's a very mild shock. And especially when we're talking about breaking bad habits, this applies to the field of aversion therapy if you're into psychology. And essentially, aversion therapy has been shown to help reduce cravings and addictions by creating a negative association between a behavior that you have and that small amount of, you could call it, well, it's pain. And so essentially, you can even manually administer a small shock to yourself to break a habit that you want to disassociate with. And over time, it works. So for instance, we found in studies with Pavlok that smokers were able to use Pavlok to quit smoking just by zapping themselves with slight zaps on the wrist as they're smoking. And we saw that there was a cessation in smoking cravings, and actually a reduction and a complete quitting of smoking amongst a lot of candidates that we surveyed. And we use Pavlok to test with different habits and different types of behavior change, from smoking to weight loss to exercise to negative thought loops to nail biting to hair pulling. These are things that really plague a lot of people and that they want to get rid of. And Pavlok was, interestingly enough, able to if not completely eliminate, greatly reduce a lot of these negative habits, as well as help to install positive ones. And that's an endorsement of Pavlok, sure, because I do like the company and I work there, but also it's really just an endorsement of the human mechanism for habit creation in the mind, which in a way is kind of like programming a computer. And that's, I think, really why learning to create good habits and break bad ones are so important. You know, your brain is like a computer in many ways. And if you can learn to program it, you can become the master of your own destiny. That's really what we want to do. We want to become the masters of our own destiny here. And one thing that I learned about when working at Pavlok, especially looking at behavior change on the whole, is that there's something called Keystone Habits. And Keystone Habits are essentially just habits that are they're cornerstones of your day, like a daily routine, for instance, that helps you to facilitate the smooth unfolding of all the other habits. A keystone habit would be something like, for you, if you were a runner, doing your morning run. That would be a keystone habit. For others who are just trying to work on their personal hygiene, which is totally, normal. It could be like brushing your teeth or flossing every day, especially people who have trouble flossing. And that can become a keystone habit. But these are going to be like our core habits. And we found that at Pavlok, there are certain keystone habits that had positive effects over people's entire day and their mood, just because they were very, very important to the foundational, I think, well-being and overall the productivity of someone's day. And so the habits that we found that were so effective in just implementing in someone's day, and I know it sounds funny, but we had, last time I checked, there were over 100,000 customers of just this product. And so we got a lot of data on what works with people building new habits and breaking bad ones. And one of the keystone habits is just getting more exercise outside, specifically 5,000 steps or more per day. And we could track this through our app, through the wearable. And we found that people who were getting at least 5,000 steps per day reported much higher levels of happiness overall. I don't know what the exact statistic was, but we found that this was the case. And that once you were on the 5,000 step per day habit train, it was much easier to stay on it than to keep going on and off. And really 5,000 steps is, I think, about 2 miles, something like that. And you could get that in about 2 to 3 long walks per day. It's not that much walking, but it, especially if you have a dog, but it really, really helps with your overall mental health. As well as another one that we found that was really important was gratitude journaling. So this is on a daily basis, making this into a habit of just writing down the things that you're grateful for, writing down the things that you're happy for. I think about this a lot. I think that I grew up in a very, a loving family, a nice environment, and I am thankful for just having that foundation in my life. And then I can go throughout my life and think about things I'm grateful for on a small and a large basis. Individuals and people I'm grateful for, moments I'm thankful for, material items I'm thankful for. I can go through and just make a whole list. And I think that has been listed as so important because it really helps people to put life in perspective. And it's a habit that you can implement that's not hard. It's abundant to find things you can be grateful for, even if you're having a bad day. And it has an outsized impact on how you feel about your life when you're thinking about things when you're purposely thinking about things from the half full mentality. That's another habit that we found was really effective. And this next habit is really something that we're going to dive into deeper in this podcast. So let's talk about it. It's the habit of creating a morning and evening routine. So this is more of a complex habit, because a morning routine and an evening routine are two separate routines, and there are different things within those routines. But let's talk about it, because we found, just from my time working with a lot of people who are interested in building habits, that really a keystone habit is having your day, what I call bookended. And a morning routine is a bookend in the morning, and an evening routine is a bookend at night, to give some opening and some closure to your day, and to help you to get in a better mindset for accomplishing your tasks and then powering down for the day. And so let me talk to you about what I think are some, I'll call them my perfect day formula. I'll call it my perfect day formula. And my perfect day formula starts basically in the evening. So if you think about this, most people think about their morning routine as the start to their day, but you can't really have a good morning if you're having a crappy evening. You have to be able to power down correctly and have a good night's sleep to wake up feeling refreshed. And as you wake up feeling refreshed, it's going to help you to have a better day and have a better night. So it's a cycle. In this chicken and egg scenario, the evening routine really is king. So what does that mean for me? For me, I break that up into a few hours, leading up into bed. Basically 6 hours before bed, I am cutting caffeine. So typically my night ends around 10 or 11. And if that's the case, I'm cutting caffeine around, 4 or 5. Max. 5 would be late. 4 would be probably the latest I would have it. But I've just found that I can go to sleep if I have caffeine after that, but it is harder. Why make it any harder on myself? Unless I really have something to do that requires caffeine at that time. The exception is sometimes I'll work out late at that time and I will have it, but I try not to do that. An hour before bed, though. So an hour before bed, if I'm thinking about, my evening routine, if I'm going to bed around probably 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night. So I'll probably start this around 9 or 9:30, about an hour before bed. And that's really the thing I like to know for myself, is what time works well to start powering down. You're gonna have to find your own time. You can use something like an Oura ring. An Oura ring is a nice wearable device that will teach you a little bit more about your REM cycle, teach you a little bit more about your body's natural sleep cycle, and you can find where your best timing is. For me, I find that if I can sleep from about 11 to 7 or 11 to 6:30 even, that gives me about 7.5 hours of sleep, totally good for me. So finding your right window is great. Knowing your timing. About an hour before bed, I'll start with maybe a nice tea. Seriously, I'll have a nice caffeine-free, herbal-only tea. I'll also reduce or eliminate screens. So what I'll do is I'll even get some of if you're watching on video, I have some of these Swannies glasses. These are blue light blocking glasses that reduce the strain of the light on your eyes. They're pretty useful. They're great for at night. Great for if you're on the computer a lot. I'll also turn down the lights low. If I have a rock salt lamp, some candles, I'll just make it less bright in the house, and it just helps me to calm down. There's a lot of screens we're looking at all day. It keeps your brain and your mind agitated. It's good to calm the energy of the house. Around this time, too, about an hour out, I'll also start just doing a stretch routine. And during this time, I'm really trying my best not to be on work all the way up until the end of my sleep, all the way up until going to bed. I'm really trying not to do that. I have a good routine of not, and if I break it, it's easy to get back into the habit of always being on email, always being on text. So before bed, I'm not doing that, but I am doing some body work, mobility. I'll have a little massage gun. I'll give myself a massage. I'll do some stretching. I'll do some yoga just to get my body ready to sleep, preparing it, relaxing it. Right before sleeping, maybe about 10 minutes before, 15 minutes before, I'll check the temperature in the house. I'll usually lower the temperature by about 2 to 4 degrees. I like to sleep around 68. I think that's the best temperature for sleeping, but it has been cold in Oregon, so sometimes I will use that heat. But typically I like to sleep when it's a little bit more chilly. And atmosphere is important too. Sometimes I'll put on music, something like a soothing sound bowl or nature sound, rain, forest sounds, thunderstorms, binaural beats, anything that sounds really good, but something that's mild. I don't want it to be waking me up. I don't want to have any lyrics or words. It has to be completely just tones. And I might even do some essential oils. We have an oil diffuser in the bedroom, so we'll put some lavender or some mint or bergamot, I think, something like that, in essential oil in the diffuser, and it just makes the whole room, really, the energy of the room change. It smells really good. It's relaxing, and essential oils have been shown to actually reduce stress in the brain. We've seen studies on this. Can I quote them? No. But do I know they exist? Yes. So DYOR. But either way, highly recommend essential oils. Meditation is great at this time too. I might do just a quick 5-minute meditation, closing my eyes and just reviewing my day. Sometimes I'll even like to, when I'm in bed, just review my day from end to beginning, and reverse, go all the way back to the beginning of the day, and try to highlight the significant events in the day and close any loops mentally in my head, close the filing, and then wake up the next day with that hopefully resolved. And it really does work. Now, as I'm sleeping, just in terms of sleep habits, there are a couple of good hygiene things that I have for myself. Sleep hygiene. One is sleep positioning. So that's how I'm sleeping. And that's typically, I think it's best to sleep on your side. I used to be a back sleeper. Now I think it's typically best to sleep on your side. Mattress quality is important too. I try to go with a firm one. I think that's better for your spine alignment. If it's too soft, your spine doesn't get the right support. So I find firmer is better. Obviously, finds your preference, but that's just my personal preference, and I feel like that's probably right for more people. Eye mask as well. if you don't have blackout curtains, an eye mask is a godsend, because the eyelids are pretty good, but once you have blackout curtains or an eye mask, you realize how much light actually goes through your eyelid naturally, which I think is probably the point. You want to have some sort of sensitive, like photosensitivity to the light in nature. When we're waking up and going to sleep by the light of the sun and the moon, I think you have to have that. But when we have a set schedule, or we just really need to get some real sleep and we've been up all day, that blackout mattress or that blackout curtain or those eye masks are really nice. And I use a Manta eye mask, which I'll talk about at the end of the show. I'll give some notes on things you can check out. But Manta is a really great sleep mask. I think you could just go to mantasleep.com, and they have a nice cushioned sleep mask. Snoring too. If you snore, I highly recommend you get some Breathe Right strips. Those will really help your nasal passages. And I know this sounds weird, but I've tried this, and this is based on a book I read called Breathe. If you're a snorer, get some sort of athletic tape and take a small piece of your tape and tape your mouth shut while you're sleeping. That will prevent your mouth from opening while you're sleeping, but you'll still have a little bit of breathing room on the side of your mouth, and then your nose will be able to mostly breathe, and it will force you to breathe through your nose while you're sleeping. And this has reduced my snoring about 80%. And it sounds weird because now I have a nasal strip on and I'm taping my mouth shut. But when I do it, it reduces the snoring. Do I need to have a sleep study done? Probably. But this is what has really gotten me good results. And I'm not waking up snoring or sleep apnea. It's not even a word. Sleep apnea. You're stopping. You're not breathing when you're sleeping. So you wake up because you're not breathing. That happens to me sometimes. You can't do that if your mouth is closed because you're breathing through your nose, force you to breathe through your nose. So it's actually a small little tip that has a big impact. Highly recommended. And check out the book Breathe. I don't remember who it's by, but it's very good. Let's see, Breathe. I'll check it out I'll put it in the show notes. So that's my evening routine and my sleep stuff. Now, I wake up in the morning around 6 and 8 a.m. And I reserve the first 2 hours of the morning to just get my life together, to just get running for the day. I start off with a cold shower, especially in the winter. Man, this is freezing, really, really cold. I do it for about 90 seconds, in the last 90 seconds of the shower. And man, this morning it must have been 30 or below. I mean, it was damn near freezing. I was crying in there. It's so much colder in Oregon than it is in California. And but it's really good for waking you up. It's really good for your metabolism. It's really good for your challenging yourself mentally the first thing during the day. I think it's great. Then I'll come down. I usually have some green juice. I call that the Elixir of Life. I'll get some cold pressed green juice from Suja or another cold pressed company. Get it at your grocery store. I'll put some greens powder in there too. That's going to have tons of vitamins. It's like a liquid multivitamin. It's going to have probiotics and prebiotics. It's going to have just lots of nutrients like chlorophyll and micronutrients, galore. And there's different blends of it as well. Different types of greens powders. I highly recommend you get one that you like, that tastes good to you. And it's going to have no sugar in it. That green juice that I have, the cold pressed green juice, has almost no sugar in it. And I like to get some greens in like that and a quick vitamin rich form the first thing in the morning. I think it's great for digestion. I usually follow it up with some some spinach or some greens as well. And I just like to get my body started on that the first thing in the morning. I'll also drink about a liter of water. Sometimes I'll put some lemon and some sea salt in there, and that becomes my wake up and drink. Dogs for the morning. Yeah, I'm just reading my notes. Yeah, still between 6 and 8. Usually dogs are going to go on a walk. That's why I'm going to get the first part of my steps in for the day. I'm usually going to get about 2,000 steps just for that first walk easily. And then I'm going to come back in and do meditation, journaling, and gratitude journal. By then, it's usually about 8 o'clock and my day progresses. And from there, I usually have a creative block. And my creative block is from 8 to 11 a.m. And I'm in that creative block right now as I'm recording this. It's about 10 a.m. And so I'll do either writing or recording from that time. It allows me to get in my deep work time, allows me to really focus on the creative stuff. And I do this every day, and over time it adds up. And you really want to have those creative blocks add up because you can get the most done as you're consistently doing it every day. And so I get into that habit of having that creative time every day. And from that point on, towards the middle of the end of the morning, early afternoon, 11 to 12 p.m., I'm going to just do what I call my daily dashboard, where it's just basically doing a review of all the the high level things I have to do for the day, business, personal. So I'll look at my finances, I'll look at all my bank accounts, I'll look at everything that needs to look, move around money wise. I'll look at calendar, I'll look at my to-dos, and I'll look at what meetings I have on the day. And then from 12 to 6, I'm just doing meetings, creative stuff, sales, and then usually at night I'll get in a workout, and then I'll come in and I'll relax, I'll have dinner, I'll have downtime, I'll do my evening ritual, and then I'll go to bed. And so I'm encouraging you, just by talking about my day, to start to organize your day, to start to think about how you want to schedule your day. What would you, if you have, let's say, 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the evening, what would you put in that block? What would you do? Now, the key is those blocks set me up for having the real success during the chunk of the day, the meat of the day. So I'm setting myself up. I'm giving myself that edge. And what I think is important about the evening routine to remember too is I'm not just crashing and burning into bed. I think a lot of people who work really hard and ambitious, they just go to sleep as soon as they get tired because they just wasted. I think it's good to actually put yourself to bed so that you have some sort of it makes you feel like you have control over your energy levels. So that is something I like to do. Now, talking about habits too, when you're talking about establishing a morning and evening routine, that's going to come with installing a bunch of new habits. And I was actually going to go on this earlier in the podcast, but I skipped over it. I wanted to read to you from James's book, James Clear, about installing good habits and deleting bad ones. So what do we have here? I'm actually literally reading from his book because I think this is such a powerful framework. And I highly recommend you check out this book. I have this one on Audible, and I have it via physical copy, so it's definitely worth it. Let me pull out my screen here. Here we go. Okay, so James has 4 laws for creating a good habit. And so the first law is make the habit obvious. So this is pretty interesting. This is like basically tracking it. Design some sort of scorecard. One thing I'd recommend for you if you're building a habit for the first time is that you use an app like Coach.me. Coach.me is a great habit tracking app. So if you are, for instance, working on developing a habit of reading 30 minutes a day, or of working on your writing, or of doing yoga, or of working out, whatever you want to do, Lift.me, it's a free app, and you can use it to check in with that habit for the day, and you can create streaks. And streaks are great because as your streak increases, you feel more and more encouraged to keep going. Jerry Seinfeld had a strategy around just make a chain and never break it. So make a chain of your habit, never break it. And he would say, I write a joke every day, I put a big X on my calendar, and I never break the chain. And you can do that for your habit too. And I think Lyft not Lyft, it used to be called Lyft, but Coach.me is a great way to capture those streaks. And I've used it on and off for years, and I like it a lot, especially when I'm just trying to get started. So that's the first thing, make it obvious. Another thing you can do too is you can make it attractive. So this says here, create a motivation ritual. Do something you enjoy immediately before a difficult habit. So depending on what you're going to do, I mean, you might even think about like pairing it with something that you like to watch or something you like to do. So for instance, if you find that you spend a lot of time watching a certain artist on YouTube, or you really like a certain song, you can pair that with a thing that you find naturally challenging to associate a good feeling with a bad feeling. And this is just you using your own psychology against yourself, on yourself, for your own positive benefit. But you can do that by pairing it with something that you like to. You can even take like, let's say a small piece of dark chocolate, for instance, and you say, I don't get to give myself this dark chocolate until after I go to the gym, although that's more of a reward after. This is more making it attractive beforehand. But you can use these motivations to pair it with the thing to make yourself psychologically more willing to go through the discomfort of doing the new habit. It's so fascinating. Make it easy. Reduce friction. Decrease the number of steps between you and your good habits. This is so important. Like when you're talking about, for instance, I know training martial arts is so it can be so exhausting. And you have to get your life to a point where your life can accommodate the training, because you have to get there, you have to show up, you have to go through the effort, you have to train, you have to learn, integrate, and come back and do it again. And the last thing you want to do is have to do all of the preparation of like cleaning the uniform and going and prepping for it. And a lot of times what holds me up from training is, something simple, like my uniform isn't clean. And I've noticed that if I don't have my uniform ready to go at all times, I'll easily make an excuse as to why I can't make it to class that day, which sounds dumb, but it's just how my brain works. So what I'll do now is I'll make sure that I always have a uniform ready to go, or like depending on what I'm doing, it could be like a no-gi uniform, which is kind of just like Under Armour stuff, rash guard, or it could be the gi, which is the traditional uniform. And I'll keep it in the gym bag at all times, in the back of my car, so in the trunk. So I'm always ready to go to training. And this has greatly reduced my amount of excuses around being ready to train. And when I'm really on my shit, I will have a towel in there, as well as like some like body scrub, so I can shower off after training. And if I'm really on my shit, I will have a gallon jug of water and some like a snack, like a granola bar or something in the car, because I'm just anticipating all of my own excuses. What are my own excuses for not training? My uniform's not clean. Okay, solve that problem for myself. What are my excuses for not training? I'm tired. I haven't had anything to eat yet. Solve that problem. Put it in my train. Put it in my car. What are my excuses for not training? I'm dehydrated. I'm so thirsty. I'm overwhelmed. I don't have any water with me. Put it in the car. What are my excuses? What are my excuses? What are my excuses? And I just solve all the problems before my brain gives them to me. And then I can logically just overpower myself and say, oh, well, I guess you just have to go to training now. And that is really, you have to force yourself to do it by making it so easy for yourself. So how could you eliminate the excuses that your brain is going to make? Come up with the excuses first. The excuses that, or the examples that James talks about in his book, and so I think that's Charles Duhigg in his book, The Power of Habit. It's just like, if you're going to be a runner, put your running shoes and your socks and your shorts by the bed in the morning, and so that when you step out of bed, you have to look at them, walk past them, and put them on. Make it so dumb simple for yourself that it's just, you have to do it. So let's make it easy. Let's see. Yeah, and then the last thing is just make it satisfying. So I think that comes down to almost like just like the chocolate example I gave. If you give yourself permission to do something that you really like after doing something that you maybe are more averse to doing, you link the good habit with you link the new habit with the good feeling. So that's something to do. Now, what about breaking a bad habit? Well, here's what James says. There's also 4 laws. They're basically just the inversion of how to build a good habit. So instead of making it obvious to break a bad habit, you got to make it invisible. What does that mean? Remove it from exposures. Remove the cues of habits from your environment. So for instance, when I'm trying to stop smoking weed, I'll go through phases where I'll take 3 to 6 months off and I'll go 3 to 6 months on. For me, that's about the balance that I like to have. And when I'm stopping though, I'll say, okay, I don't want to have this around, and I'll just take it out of the house. And then I don't think about it. It's the same thing with foods. Man, if I have ice cream in the house, I'm going to eat all the ice cream. I love it. It's so good. But if I don't want to eat it, I just won't buy it. I'm not the type of person who can buy it and have one bite or eat one. I just don't have a lot of restraint when it comes to that. Same thing with pizza. If I order a pizza, I'm going to eat the whole thing. So if I don't want to eat the whole pizza, I just don't order the pizza. Because I can't eat 1 or 2 slices. I just know that about myself, but at least I don't fool myself. So that's what you got to do. Make it invisible. Don't have it around if you want to break that habit. Make the cues go away. If you're a smoker, take away the lighters and the cigarettes and the, and the ashtrays, all of it. Wash your clothes so you can't smell it. Make it invisible. Make it unattractive, James says. Reframe your mindset. Highlight the benefits of avoiding your bad habits. Yeah, so that's good. Like, for instance, let's just go back to the smoking example. If you're like a cigarette smoker, every time you have a craving, you might say to yourself, like you have a craving to smoke, you might say, Thank God for this craving. It means that I'm going to live one extra day, or it means that my lungs are healing. This craving means my lungs are getting a little bit healthier every single day. Just really literally reframing it, because you stopped smoking probably for health reasons. So remind yourself of why you did it by reaffirming the negativity that the habit was bringing. Because you're trying to break a habit with this one. Make it difficult. Increase the friction. Increase the number of steps between you and your bad habits. So, for instance, if you're having social media issues, if you're addicted to social media, hey, we've all been there. Delete the app from your phone. Better yet, if you really want to get crazy, change the password to something random, give it to your friend or significant other, or hide it from yourself, and then delete the app off your phone. Now, could you get the password back and figure it out, put it back on your phone and get it? Sure, of course. But make it inconvenient for yourself. When I don't want to be on Instagram, I'll just delete the app, because I want to make it difficult for myself to have to log in. And just having to go back in the App Store and download it is annoying every time I want to see something. Then eventually it goes away in my mind. I stop thinking about it. But make it inconvenient for yourself. Then make it unsatisfying. So I think this is also something to do with Pavlok. You think about the aversion therapy. That's very unsatisfying. To get snapped with a rubber band, to get shocked with an electric volt. It's very unsatisfying. So that's one way. Buy a Pavlok. But find something that you can do that decreases your satisfaction by therefore breaking the habit. I mean, you can think about, you want to talk about extreme examples. What about those I guess they're medications that they give to alcoholics that makes alcohol taste nasty and makes them very sick and makes them throw up. And they start to associate then alcoholism with extreme nausea, and it cures their alcoholism. These are the things I've heard of in the different programs. That's extreme aversion therapy, but that's making it very unsatisfying. Well, these are just James's ideas in his formula for changing habits. Like I said, I recommend you read the book. And these are just one idea. This is just one framework for talking about habits. But I think it's very important to discuss with yourself as a one-on-one conversation. What habits do I have right now that I want to break, that are holding me back, that are giving me some sort of static or friction in my life? And what habits do I think would be very beneficial to me? What ones do I think would be useful to me? And what could add to the performance of my day in my life? Because remember, we're trying to improve ourselves. And when we improve ourselves, we improve our business. As I always say, improve the leader, improve the business, right? And so when you get better, your business gets better. When you get better, your career improves, your relationships improve, your finances improve. So you want to work on yourself as the foundation, and then you'll see the fruits of that labor. Now, let's see. Do I have all my notes covered today? I think I have everything. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about things to review. So, one, I'm encouraging you to design your day. It's going to allow you to see what works and what doesn't in your life. And once you get your Keystone habits, like a good morning and evening routine, it's going to be easier for you to add on other high leverage habits like meditation, nutrition, or fitness. If you've never had a daily routine, it's time to make one and to create some new habits for yourself while you do it. So I highly recommend you do it. You can use my model for it. I gave my examples of what my perfect day would look like, and some books that might help you through this. One, I highly recommend, as I said, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Two, Deep Work by Cal Newport. This is a fantastic book. So James's book is more about the how-to of specific habit change, and Cal's is more about the why and the how of focusing intensely on things. Just as important. And The Power of Habit is a book similar to James's, which is very, very good and highly regarded. Those are three books. The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. Those are three books I highly recommend you read. And apps that I encourage you to check out: Coach.me, which is a great habit tracking app; Headspace and Calm, which are two meditation apps. Those are worthy habits of integrating into your life as you find time. And for sleep, I recommend you check out mantasleep.com. Great eye masks. Don't have any affiliate link for them. I should at some point get one. That would be great. Now, I talked a little bit about my morning walk, and one thing that I like to do, I said morning walk. I sound like I'm from New York. I talked about my morning walk. I like to get morning movement in. Sometimes I'll do a quick morning workout. And one thing I like to use is I have a set of body weight. I have a body weight gym basically, and it's by a company called Base Blocks, which is a fantastic, almost like a home gymnastics equipment company. And you go to baseblocks.fit. Again, I don't have any affiliation with them, but I just like their product. and you can check out their different sets of bodyweight workout equipments. I have the one with the pull-up bar, the dip bars, and the like the squat bench thing. It's pretty cool. So check it out. I also use a program called Gold Medal Bodies, which is GMB.io is their website, and they are a company that basically specializes in mobility and functional strength and flexibility. So I highly recommend them. I also do them in the morning and in the evening as well. Again, no affiliate links, but I just highly recommend you check them out. GMB.io, great movement practices. So, I mean, that's it, guys. I think we went all the way through it. I went through habits. I went through what they are. I went through, why Keystone Habits are so important. Some of the things we found working at Pavlok. We talked about my ultimate day. We talked about, breaking bad habits and creating good ones based on James Clear's work. I gave you some recommendations for books. This is a great primer for you to get your habits and your routine started for the new year. And I highly recommend that you get on the full train. If you want to start performing at your best, it's not just for you, by the way, it's for others around you. It's for your family, it's for your friends and your colleagues, your team members. When you're at your best, they're going to help themselves because they're going to see that you are leading them and they're going to step their game up. So you'd be surprised what happens when you start to elevate. People around you will as well. And so that's what we're talking about. Peak performance for busy people. This is the new workshop. It's March 3rd and 4th. Okay, this is a Thursday and a Friday. This is coming up. That's less than a month. What do we focus on? These are the important points. You're going to get sharp. This is all about mastering focus and discipline and attention to detail to get you paid and promoted. You're going to get fast. That's all about time management for getting more done at work and beating the competition off the blocks. You're going to get some positive habits going, meditation, financial habits, health, relationships, whatever's important to you. We're going to talk about destroying negative habits like procrastination, self-doubt, lack of focus, and lack of discipline. We'll talk about mental health and dealing with stress as a high-performance individual, someone who's ambitious and wants to get their life moving, how they deal with it all. And, of course, rising to the top of your field, how to get there in less time. It's going to be, like I said, a 2-day live event, but you don't need to attend live. You can watch the recording if you want. We're going to give away crypto prizes during the live recording, and there's only 100 tickets for this. I'm doing this on purpose every single month. So if you want to get early bird access to this, we're going to give a $100 discount on the tickets, and you're going to get a free buddy pass to bring a friend or a family member. And you just go to newwaveentrepreneur.com/VIP, and you can get on the early bird list. So as soon as those tickets are hot, you will be the first to know. That is all I got for the podcast, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode on habit building some routines. Get your life moving, get your shit pumping. Thank you so much for all the love and the DMs, all the comments on the posts I've been putting up. Just in general, the response to the podcast has been dope. We got more in the can, and I'll talk to you guys soon. The water is warm and the tide is rising. It's time to surf this new wave. I'll catch you on the other side. Peace.